fam. Back.
What's good, my Philly family, and welcome to another episode of 4133, the podcast. I'm back with Nick, man. See, he back already. See, man. Hey, man, how you feeling, man? I mean, we kind of predicted that game, so how you feeling?
Yeah. Props to you as well. We ran a bunch of hurry up, a bunch of no huddle, and you were calling it out last week. That's what we should do. So hopefully we can keep that up this week. But I always got to start off number one, Texas Longhorns. We're taking it this year. So, but yeah, we uh we have a good show today. I'm excited to talk about this rematch against the Commanders. Hopefully, you can lock up the division on the road and their house. But excited for today's pod.
Yeah, man. I mean, I was hoping that the Saints and Spencer Rattler would have just played it out a little better. We could be sitting up here with some celebratory hats on ourselves, but we have to wait another game. Shout out to Philly. What's good, brother? Yeah, man. I mean, we kind of called it though. You said, muddying the waters on that back end for Russell Wilson would be key. Making him see things that ain't there sometimes, and it kind of made him hesitant. I kind of appreciated like looking at the all 22 and seeing sometimes where the coverage probably would have been open if he had just a smidgen of more time. But the pass rush also being there on time, why he couldn't pick, and George Pickens not being in help. I'm not gonna flex, but how did you feel like defensively about that game though?
Well, number one, it was just hard to even there wasn't that many plays to take away. I mean, it was like 41 plays, right? But that was partly because of the domination they had on defense. They had I didn't write the stats down for this preview, but however many 3-and-outs they had, 2 possessions in the second half. I mean, I think that speaks for itself. But as you were mentioning, were there times where potentially guys were coming open, but then the rush was getting there. That's what makes a good defense, when the back end can marry up with the front end. And that's what we saw a lot in 2022. That's a big reason why we had so many sacks in the 2022 season, was the rush was good and the coverage was good on the back end. But I think this team is even better on defense this year. They got better talent all the way around, better coaching, number one, but it was complementary football, front end, back end, everything working together, and they came out and dominated. Hopefully they can keep that up, and I imagine they will. If you look at this team's numbers, number one in points allowed per game this season, number one in yards allowed per game this season. They're giving up like 239 yards since the bye week. That would be the third best number since 2000 if that was for the entire season. So this defense isn't just playing well, they are dominating, and I expect that to continue all throughout the playoffs.
So I liked it. I really liked the fact that we didn't let them establish the run. I didn't talk about it with you, but I kind of spoke on my own pod. Like when you kind of shut their run down, you'll see Najee off the field, and it was a lot of time on that clock where Najee was standing on the sideline with his helmet on, looking on because Warren was in. But ultimately, we shut down the run. I mean, they didn't have many threats on offense, as you said. Fire move, he got a touchdown. And Calvin Austin, who I said could be a little sneaky getting behind the defense. Those are the only two guys that made a dent in anything for them.
But it took a flea flicker to get Calvin Austin the ball, and even then, Zach Bond was covering him 30 yards down the field, pretty much face guarding the guy. It took a miracle catch to happen. So
if he finds the ball, do you think he picks it?
Yeah, I mean, if he gets his head around, I understand why he didn't get his head around. He had to chase the guy and get into position. You can't really be looking back when you're trying to chase the guy down like that. But just even get in position like that, and not even that. If you go back and look at the all 22 of the play, he was the first one to recognize that it was a flea flicker. So there's a reason he was able to get back and be the first one there when everyone else had pretty much bit on the run. But it just goes to show how well Zach Bond has played in all phases of the game. And this guy is. I'm going to be coming out with a video of it pretty soon, but when you look at his seasons, he's comparable to Defensive Player of the Year seasons that other linebackers have put up. Luke Kuechly, Brian Urlacher. I went back and looked at some guys' numbers. Nobody was close to the Ray Lewis season, so
Nah,
there's no comparison there. But
nah.
there is a precedent where you have a linebacker putting up these stats on a defense that's the top-ranked defense in the league. Zach Bond is playing like a defensive player of the year.
Um, what I mean, obviously, what would stop him from getting it in your eyes?
Uh, the fact that he's not a well-known name. If he was a guy that had been to a Pro Bowl before, or he was highly drafted, I think it's mostly the fact that he is not that well known. And a lot of times you're having writers that are picking who are the winners of these awards. And to be honest, they don't truly have the time to go through all 32 teams and dissect the film like that. Some of it is stat based, and the stats will help Bond be up there. But they don't have that much time to go around and dissect everyone. So they're going to look at the top tier names first. So, and then you add into it, very few linebackers have ever actually won the award. It's usually pass rushers and guys that can put up big stat numbers, but it's not like any of these guys have sack numbers that are just running away, are just, getting close to 20 sacks. And the guys that aren't playing on teams that are very good for the most part. So I think there's a path for Zach Bond to get there, but we have to get awareness out. Now, the one good thing that's happening is Zach Bond is a leading vote getter among all linebackers, at least on the NFC side, for
Yeah.
the Pro Bowl among the fan votes. So word is getting out there about Bond. So hopefully he can bring the hardware home.
I mean, obviously the monster in the room, Jalen Hurts, comes out. I mean, obviously performs way better than he has in the last few weeks. What was your takeaway from what you seen from Jalen, and how he played this week?
Overall, it was a great game. I mean, were there moments where you'd like to have back, especially in that second quarter? He was probably bailing the pocket a little bit too early, but comes out in the second half, really hangs in the pocket. The times when he did end up scrambling, he was afforded more room to scramble because he was letting the rush mature. They would collapse the pocket, and then he was able to escape and scramble out. But for the most part, he was much more decisive. I think part of that had to do with the fact that they were going to empty a lot more. It defines the reads easier. It helps to spread everyone out. You add into it that when you face empty, when defenses face empty, they really only have a handful of empty checks that they're gonna check into. So you kind of know what you're gonna get from a defense when you go into empty. Then you get five guys out on a route. It helps to show who is going to be blitzing as well. So it defined the reads for Jalen a little bit easier. The fact that the Steelers, they play a lot of single high coverage, they play a lot of man coverage. That's what Jalen is best at attacking. He has his lowest scramble rate against cover one because when he knows he has cover one, he knows he's going at A.J. Brown, who has the highest yards per route run against man coverage of any receiver since at least 2018. So those two together are tearing up man coverage. When you see that and you see Jalen playing confidently and playing decisively, getting the ball out of his hands, getting the ball to his running backs in the on checkdowns and letting them work at times. When you see that Jalen Hurts, that's a guy that is dangerous and can take us to a Super Bowl. So it was great to see him bounce back after a week where the week before there was guys, they were running quick game. There was opportunities for him to take some throws that he just wasn't taking. To see him bounce back a week after the performance from the Panthers, I think makes a lot of Eagles fans feel at ease. What did you think of his performance, though?
I thought it was actually, like you said, it was a few plays where I watched so far. I'm like, Jalen, you had a guy, you maybe could have made a play, but sometimes his clock is a little off, and it's kind of weird, right, Nick? Because sometimes you'll see him and he'll be back there, he'll be bouncing, and you're like, all right, and then he'll dot somebody up, and then like the next play, the pocket looks almost identical, and he bails out to the left, he bails out to the right, and it's almost like, be patient, let it develop, let the defense settle, because eventually, if you let it play out, you can see the field wholly. But I mean, they gave him all the opportunities to be a passer. It seems like their defense was only urgent when Saquon Barkley was on the field. It seemed like you automatically seen the urgency to put their eyes in the backfield, and they flow and they flow. I think we could have. To me personally, I think we could have manipulated their defense a little bit more with using some of those RPOs. But Saquon did go down. But I think if Saquon's in, those RPOs could have manipulated even more passing yards. I really think Jalen should have finished that game with about 350.
Yeah, and they probably would have if the Steelers were able to push them a little bit more. But then you get to they're not forced to open it up nearly as much, you know. But when they had to end the game, they go on a 10-minute drive, and a lot of it was Jalen converting on long downs and distances because the run game wasn't as effective as we've seen in games past. But you're exactly right. There's times when Jalen will get back to the top of his drop and he's just kind of bouncing around sitting there, or he'll get back to the top of his drop and as soon as his back foot plants, he's ready to take off and run, almost like he's predetermined that he's gonna scramble. And you saw a little bit of that pop up in the second quarter of that game, and it seems like at halftime they regrouped and it was maybe I don't know what the conversations that were had, but second half, he comes out and he's trusting the play designs, trusting his pocket, hanging in there a little bit longer. And when that happens, he's able to give himself better, more space to run, or let the play develop and find guys like that Devontae Smith play where he was able to hold on to the ball. Devontae finds a soft spot in the zone, and they're able to convert like a 2nd and 20. You know, when they got
Where he moved Saquon,
yeah, yeah,
opened the window.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
That was a key play for me. I was a little shocked to see that, Nick. Like just to see him holding it and then being like, "All right, I see Smitty coming this way. Move, just move out the way. Let me get this window." Like usually when he's pointing, it usually goes.
Yeah, it is weird if you look at his numbers in terms of like when plays get extended. If you look at his numbers, they're not that good for whatever reason. I mean, we've seen a lot of highlight plays come out of that, but his numbers comparatively to other quarterbacks just aren't that great. Now, those aren't including his scrambling numbers. So when he does take off and run, a lot of times good things happen. He seems to make at least one play a game, a miraculous play where he's getting out of pressure, or he's like the last Commanders game, he had a huge first down he got hit, and then extended the ball for a first down on a big conversion against the Commanders. So
Oh, when he jumped off his
he
foot.
makes
When he
yeah,
jumped off
yeah.
the 1 foot, yeah, that was a crazy play.
Yeah, so he's got that playmaker ability in him. Hopefully, we can continue seeing that grow. But I do think that was a perfect matchup for Jalen in terms of what the Steelers do, the type of defense they want to play. A lot of single high. That's what Jalen's best at attacking. So I think it's really going to come down to a lot is when we see teams like that play more quarters or more too high coverages, does this continue to happen where he's getting through his reads quickly, getting the ball to the running back on checkdowns if that's where the ball needs to go? Because there's been times where he just avoids the checkdowns and tries to scramble and make things happen. But when he gets the ball to his backs, Kenny Gainwell was making plays. He's making dude fly from his spin move, and then obviously Saquon can take the ball to the house anytime he touches it. So hopefully he trusts his backs a little bit more in the passing game as well. But
He said the
yeah,
throwing motion. Drew said he believes that Jalen's throwing motion is kind of why scramble plays go bad.
yeah, and he doesn't have like it's not like he has the Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes level arm talent where like sometimes you see those guys just flick the ball 50 yards down the field on the run. Jalen can make throws on the run, but he doesn't have that level of zip on the ball that ability to throw it down the field. When I see Pat Mahomes on film, he's got this ability to bend like his upper arm, the way he's able to torque his upper arm backwards. It's just Jalen doesn't have that flexibility in his arm to get his arm into those positions to make those kind of throws.
It's
So
probably because Jalen didn't play baseball too.
yeah, I bet you that's a big part of it. I mean, he's pretty muscled up as well, so sometimes you can be a little bit stiffer as a result of your body composition as well. But that could be a factor as well. It could just be they're just not good at scramble drills. A lot of stuff to it.
You did say something about I did see a play that's not really getting any attention, but Jalen broke out the pocket. He does a spin, finds Saquon on a toss play. We didn't get the first or anything, but that was a nice play, like for him to like this escapability. He probably should have lost 7 or 8 yards. He ends up getting away. Oh, there's Saquon. Boom, pitch. If Saquon makes God miss, you never know what happens. But
Yeah, and the ability to not take a loss, like you said, is huge right there. And he's done that so many times where guys come unblocked. Go back to the Cowboys game. They drew up the perfect blitz. Guy came unblocked. Jalen had to make a miss, and then he finds Goddard for a touchdown. So he makes plays happen. And there's certain quarterbacks that just can't, they can't do those things. But we got a guy that can.
so going into this game this week. You know, a lot on the table. How do you think we fare against uh, the Commanders?
Well, the Commanders, if you go back and look at that game, they were only the Eagles were down 4 points. I think it was 10-6 going into the fourth quarter. So it was a tight game in the fourth quarter. But really, if you look at the everything that was happening, they outgained the Commanders 434 yards to 264 yards, 6.2 yards per play to 4.2 yards per play, and 70 of those yards for the Commanders came on the final drive of the game when they were already down 16. The Eagles were just didn't want them to hit a big play, just run out the clock, right? So it's pretty much giving up that drive. So really, up until that drive, held them under 200 total yards. Even though the score going into the fourth quarter wasn't what we thought it would be, the Eagles were moving the ball on them. And even with Marshawn Lattimore back, their biggest issue is that I don't think they can match up physically with the Eagles in the trenches. And even in the first half of that game, they were missing a lot of blocks. Or there was a play, like I remember with Mekhi Becton, he blocked an offensive lineman. It wasn't a combination block. It wasn't a double team. He just blocked one of the defensive linemen and then let him go and worked up to the second level, thinking maybe he thought he was going to get help from Cam Jurgens. I don't know what happened, um, but just little plays like that were happening that were screwing up plays. But even still, they were able to run the ball for the most part on them in the first half. Maybe it wasn't to the same degree in the fourth quarter, but they were still moving the ball. So I think they should come out, and it still should be a pretty. I'm not going to say they're going to blow them out, but it should be a physical and dominant win for this team. Marshawn Lattimore's back. I do expect them to do some different things with Terry McLaurin, but for the most part, this team is just physically on the trenches, on the interior, on both sides of the ball. Can't really compete with the Eagles, and if you can't stop the Eagles' run game, there's no chance in hell that you're going to beat this team. So we'll see what happens. The Commanders have a quarterback like Jaden Daniels. He's always a threat to put up points, but with, again, this league-leading defense, it makes life difficult for every quarterback that we faced. So I think the Eagles should come out with another victory this game. But what do you think about what's your feeling going into this rematch?
Um, First off, I think one of their biggest offensive threats is not going to play. Obviously, in Austin Eckler, he was a big part of their offense last time. Made a bunch of guys miss in the open field. Was a very, very reliable outlet passer. And I also think Zach Ertz is also in the air. I'm looking at their injury report as we speak. Zach Ertz and Jeremy Chin. Jonathan Allen is out. He didn't play the first game, so that really don't make a difference. But I think the biggest guy that might miss is Jeremy Chin. Like, I know they got Marshawn Lattimore back, but he was a big part of them being effective in some of those defensive schemes early, being aggressive, really cutting down some of our we trying to get it in quick game, we trying to get it underneath, break a play. He was kind of all over the field, and I think that's obviously going to be a big part. And I don't know, Brian Robinson Jr. He's a decent back, but I think we can hold him. I think when it comes down to it, they're going to need the run game. I think Jaden Daniels is obviously going to be more in the run game this time than he was last time. But I still think he's hurt. I think he's still dealing with injury. I think, playing us on Thursday may have gave a sense that, they might be as competitive of a team as we are at this moment. I think all that plays in an effective part. I also believe they might have came out with a little bit more fire and more aggressiveness, knowing that, hey, we don't play for another 17 days type. It's a little bit give and take. When you play football, there's things hey, look, I'm finna go on vacation for 17 days. I can leave it out here in the field because I got time to recover. I got time to get things together. You go in a situation where, yes, this game is possibly must win for the Commanders, but it's not win or die. And I think I don't want to say it's going to be close because I just don't believe it. I believe this game should be as confident as I believe the Carolina game should be. No offense to the Commanders, I just think they're not ready.
Yeah, just all the talent-wise on their entire team, top to bottom, I just don't think they're there yet. And it shows in the record. They haven't beat a team with a winning record yet this year. 0-4 against teams with winning records. And then you mentioned Eckler. He's out this game. He's on injured reserve. And then you look at the yards he got. His big plays, he had a big 36-yard gain, I think, and then a 20-yard gain. Both of them came on essentially blown coverages. Unfortunately, it looked like it was on our boy Zach Bond, but they
Now,
really came on blown
one of them it looked
coverages.
like he let him leak into the flat and maybe he got his eyes in the backfield early,
Yeah,
and
and
then
then
he
and
just
then
happened
one,
to be on the edge.
yeah, yeah, both of them essentially were the same thing. It was like he
I thought
needed to
one
take
was
the ball.
N'Kobe though. I thought no, it was Bond. It was.
Yeah, I think they were both Bond. Essentially same. I think they were both same coverage, cover three match, and they didn't take number three to the flat. He's just late on those plays. So, and I don't think they have a receiving threat like Eckler. I like Brian Robinson Jr. as a runner. I do think if they can keep, I do think if they can keep for the Commanders wise, think back to that Panthers game. They stayed committed to the run, even though they weren't breaking off explosive runs. They stayed committed to the run, and they're able to eke out 4, 5, 6 yard gains. And because of that, they didn't face a whole lot of third and longs. I think the Commanders can do that. Brian Robinson is a very tough runner. He will run through tackles. So I think if they want to look at that Carolina Panthers game plan where they were able to hold the ball a long time, keep the Eagles offense off the field, even though it might not be an explosive game, really ugly it up and try and limit the Eagles play total. I think that's their best chance to winning. I don't think them coming out and throwing the yard all across the yard, throwing the ball all across the yard is going to be the way that they win. But we'll see how it goes. Ertz might be out. We don't know with the concussion. I just like you said, I don't think this is a game where they should feel that threat. They should win by I say at least a touchdown.
So obviously I didn't even notice that Bryce Huff, Britton Covey, possibly Sidney Brown game. What do you with Bryce Huff kind of about to fall back in the fold? Do you see that as a good thing or a bad thing? I've been hearing a little bit both. You know, guys feel like him coming back messes up the rotation of what Nolan Smith has established, and some people are a little bit wishy on whether or not Bryce Huff brings a key part to the defense at this point. You know, seeing that, I guess they feel like we've been playing better without him.
Yeah, I mean, but we're playing really good with them too. I mean, it was just a good defense. We even, no matter who's been out, they've still been a good defense. Brandon Graham goes down, they don't miss a beat. Reed Blankenship out of the lineup, they don't miss a beat. Darius Slay not in the lineup, they don't miss a beat. It's a collective unit, a collective group effort that has led to them being a good unit. Bringing a guy like Bryce Huff back is only going to help. Even if he's only playing on third downs in a pass rusher role, it's no doubt going to help. I know a lot of people were, especially when you swap out a fan favorite like Hassan Reddick and then bring in Huff, he's under the microscope and he didn't perform up to the expectations that we were thinking when he came to the team. But you got to kind of look at the things that are going on with Huff are very similar to TJ Watt in terms of TJ Watt's rushing numbers um, are way down this year. But if you look, like we talked about in last week's podcast, how much they're shipping TJ Watt, that's a big factor of it. Um, but sorry, I had to pull up some stats real quick. So TJ Watt, his pressure numbers are down because of how much attention he's facing. Bryce Huff, if you look at him and what other offensive coordinators were doing to him, a lot of chips, and multiple different ways where they were chipping from the outside in with the tight end, inside out, where they were chipping with running backs, putting a number of guys, whether it's a tight end and a wide receiver on his side. So there's multiple bodies that he has to run through. That all affects someone as a pass rusher. And that's something new he had to deal with because when he was on the Jets, he wasn't facing that much attention. He was getting a lot of one on one blocks. And because of that, he was able to take advantage against good pass rushers. So now he's getting a lot more attention. And as a result, he's had to learn to figure out how to rush through that extra help and that extra attention. But he is going to help at least alleviate some snaps from these guys, even if he's taken over reps for Jalix Hunt. Hunt has been much better as in the run game as opposed to the pass game. So maybe he can take some of those snaps. But I think it'll help it keep Nolan Smith a little bit more fresh as well. So we'll see how it works out. But I don't think you're going to be worse off bringing a guy like Bryce Huff back into the fold. He had a sack fumble the game before he's put on injured reserve. He had the one game when he finally got very little chips Against the Giants, he destroyed them. So I think he'll be fine coming back. I think this defense will be better having a guy like Bryce Huff in the mix.
Um, yeah, I think he was doing well. That strip sack came against Cooper Rush, right?
Yeah, against Cooper Rush. Yeah.
I think bringing Bryce Huff back, I think it energizes Nolan. I think it gives him an opportunity not to have to play 80% of the snaps. I think he gets opportunity to cut down on the snaps. He's sitting somewhere between 63 and 72%. Bryce Huff can pick up a little bit. Uh, Hunt can pick up a little bit. I believe that also makes it easier where Sweat doesn't have to switch sides. I seen the last game where Jalen Carter and Sweat was on the same side running stunts. So I think it helps. I think people just like what they see from Nolan right now.
Yeah, and you know what? I think it would be good if we can move Huff around, because what he was doing with the Jets, he didn't play one side or the other. He would rotate in on either side, and it was just easy to game plan against where Huff was going to be, because he was always rushing against right tackles. And if you can move him around, then it makes it a little bit easier to take away those chip blocks. But look at what other offensive coordinators think about Bryce Huff. If they didn't think he was good, they wouldn't have been dedicating that much attention to the guy. They just wouldn't waste those resources trying to chip him all that much. So I'll take my cue from the guys that are having to devise the scheme to protect their quarterbacks over what some of us on the internet are looking at from the outside in, not knowing the circumstances.
I was watching the green light today, and Lane kind of made Lane agreed that he believed that last week was best offensive line against best defensive line. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean the Steelers' defensive line is their front is definitely one of the best fronts without a doubt, and it's from top to bottom. They have depth, but they also have the really talented guys at the top. You have TJ Watt, obviously, needs no introduction, but Alex Highsmith was top 10 in both pressure rate and pass rush win rate, according to PFF. Then you bring in Nick Herbig, who was very similar numbers as well. I think all three of those guys were top 10 in PFF's pass rush grade. So you have a wave of pass rushers that they send at you. Those guys are also good in the run game as well. You have Cam Hayward, who was playing like one of the best defensive tackles in the league right now, had top 5 pressure and pass rush win rates on his own. You got Keanu Benton, who was a early pick in 2023 draft, who's been playing at like one of the best interior defensive linemen. That was an extremely good front, and there's a reason why they were able to slow down this run game. They have a good front. They have what you have to have if you're going to slow down this Eagles run game, and that's a good front that can match up strength wise, athletic wise against the Eagles offensive line. So it's one of those things though. Whenever you face a hard challenge, you tend to, whether you survive it or not, you tend to get better. When you place challenge yourself more and more, the more you challenge yourself, the better you're going to adapt and overcome and grow. So I think it was great to see them have that challenge. It wasn't their best day in terms of the run game. And pass pro, I thought they held up well for the most part, and they still were able to overcome and come out with a victory of multiple possessions. And when you had to go and ice the game with a 21 play, 10-minute drive, they were able to do that. So I thought it was a good performance for the offensive line.
Um, I think we did a great job. I think the worst job we did was actually helping Lane Johnson, taking him off the island by itself. I think that was, if I'm not mistaken, the one time Grant Calcaterra I really remember was over there chipping. I think that was the sack when he almost got the strip sack, right?
Yeah, it was that sack. There was a couple of plays where he chipped, but for the most part, Lane was on an island all game long. But yeah, it was that play where Calcaterra chipped him, and then it just forced T.J. Watt. It gave him a bigger runway. But at the end of the day, I thought Jalen probably could have stepped up in the pocket. He was drifting to his left because he was looking at AJ, hoping he came open on like 3rd and 13. But yeah, Lane's talked about in the past too how sometimes chips can mess up what you're trying to do as a pass blocker. I think he honestly prefers to just go one on one so that he can doesn't have to worry about. Sometimes a guy will come in, especially running backs. If you're rushing, they might come and chip the defensive end and knock him all the way inside of you when you were preparing for him to go around your outside. So, just different things that can happen in the game.
Obviously, our defense has been playing above standard, bro. Like, I did not see this coming in. I was one of the guys like, look, if it don't work with Fangio, I'm done with the scheme. He's obviously playing well. Would you, going into this game, adjust anything as a defensive coordinator for Jaden Daniels?
Well, you always want to give them some different looks, whether that's a different front or you play a line a little bit differently on the back end with your coverages. I think what's going to end up happening though is the Commanders are going to have to figure out a way to get Terry McLaurin involved in the game plan. They can't have a game where Terry McLaurin has one catch for 10 yards. They don't have a Devontae Smith on the opposite side of him where if Quinyon Mitchell's blanketing their best player, they have someone else good they can go with. Noah Brown's on injured reserve. They brought up Diami Brown is now their outside receiver who's taken on the snaps. They've activated Jamison Crowder from injured reserve. Olamide Zaccheaus is playing a lot of snaps in the slot, but none of these are guys that really truly scare you or threaten you on a consistent basis, right? So I think they're going to have to figure out a different way to get him involved. And since I put this up on Twitter, a stat,
Give me
but
the stat. I
since,
love it too. I've been using it.
yeah, yeah, since that game, since visiting Quinyanamo Bay, they were scared straight a little bit, and they started moving Terry McLaurin around, right? He was mainly aligned on the left side of the line of scrimmage for almost all of his plays that he's played this season. Where's my stat right here? Um, Terry McLaurin. So coming in up and through that
86%.
game, 86% of the plays he aligned on the left side of the line of scrimmage. 76% of those plays he was wide left, so plays when he would be aligned on Quinyon Mitchell. Since that Eagles game, he now aligns 72% of his plays on the left, so a 14% decline, 66% wide left. But here's where things get interesting. The targets are much more diverse now. Through week 11, 83% of his targets came on the left, 71% wide left. Since that Eagles game, 54% of his targets come on the left, 46% are coming on the right side. So they know that they have to figure out different ways to get him involved. It's too easy to take him away if you have a lockdown corner on one side, and they're not good enough elsewhere to really threaten you and beat you, especially if Eckler and Ertz are going to be out, or even one of those guys. So I think we're going to see him move around a little bit, and if that's the case, I'd expect them. If I were the Commanders, I'd try and get him matched up against Cooper DeJean, especially after seeing the tape against Adam Thielen. Terry McLaurin's a better receiver at this point in time than Thielen is, even though Thielen is still very good in his own right at his age. So I wouldn't be surprised if you started to see some coverages if he is aligned on Cooper DeJean in the slot. Maybe they rotate their coverage in certain ways to try and take him away. But if not, and more specifically on passing downs, because we have to remember this is a run first team. You got to take away their run game first. But on obvious passing downs, I would expect that they're going to try and run some targeted coverages to take away Terry McLaurin on obvious passing downs.
I wouldn't be surprised when they try to attack Slay with McLaurin with his history versus Slay.
Yeah.
I seen that stat. Like, I've really been using that stat. People are so mad at that stat. They're like, "Are you mad at us because we became diverse?" I'm like, "No, I'm just telling you what we really did to your offense. We gave you the keys to getting McLaurin the ball, other than on the left side. If it wasn't for us, pretty much holding him to 10 yards, I think he'd probably still be predominantly on the left side at a higher clip than 54% getting the rock." But I agree with you. When I seen that you put that stat up, that was the first thing that came to my mind. Is they're gonna find ways to get him either one on one with Coop or one on one with Slay, where they can try to use either what they seen in the Panthers game versus Coop, where he's leverage and things of that nature. And I would do the same as a defensive coordinator if it came down to me putting it out there. If I seen a guy, just like you said, I feel like I got a better receiver than the guy that just beat you with some of the same attributes, I'm gonna attack you with him too. And obviously Slay, a little older, had some success. Terry's had some success against him. But I've been laughing at people like Nick. I've been telling people like, Terry ducking smoke from Quinyon. They're like, nah, he gonna be over there. I'm like, yeah, 54%. Not like last time. He's not gonna
Yeah.
have 25 snaps and 20 of them be Quinyon. It's gonna be a little more like
Yeah.
he gets 25 snaps and 12 of them will be Quinyon.
Yeah, we'll see how they move him around. He still is aligning 72% on the left, but it's the target share that's really different. When they want to get him the ball, they are moving him around more so when they want him to get him the ball. But we still got to remember they run a lot of hurry up, a lot of no huddle. So that's the reason why you see these guys align in the same positions a lot when they're running no huddle and hurry up. They're just getting to the line quickly. So that's a big reason why you see those guys there. I wonder if that is going to be their same game plan this week. You know, I don't think the way to beat the Eagles is to come out and try and run a hurry up offense. You know, maybe hurry up and get to the line so they can't sub, but hold the ball, wait, you know, run the play clock down a little bit. But I don't think trying to get into a shootout with the Eagles is what you really want to do. I think if you want to beat them, go back to what the Commanders did in 2022 when they beat the Eagles. It was control the ball, even though they only averaged like 3.5 yards a carry in that game. They still, because of that, were able to hold the ball for quite a long time. The Eagles did turn the ball over some as well to help them out, but I don't think you want to get into a shootout with the Eagles. Not that this defense is really going to let you get into shootouts anyways.
After the last time, with Saquon pretty much taking over that game, do you think they do a better concerted effort of kind of trying to hold them in and end up in the same situation like the Steelers? Because that's kind of what I've kind of been thinking in my head that Dan Quinn might try to alleviate Saquon and leave his guys on the island.
The difference is it's we talk all about the X's and O's, but what's all the saying? The Jimmys and Joes are more important than the X's and O's. They don't have the guys up front right now, especially if Jonathan Allen. Well, not if he is ruled out at this point in time. With Jonathan Allen out, they don't have the guys up front that can stop this Eagles offensive line from mauling them. You know that because that's what they do to pretty much everyone that hasn't been the Pittsburgh Steelers and to some degree, the Baltimore Ravens. In that first half, but I don't think they have the guys that can slow them down. And then when the Eagles started doing much better with their blocking assignments in the second half, the fourth quarter of that Commanders game, it was Kenny Gainwell multiple explosive runs. Then it was Saquon Barkley with 40-yard run, 20-yard touchdown run, not getting touched until 5 yards down the field at best. So uh, I don't think that you can try and sell out to stop the run and maybe that'll work, but that'll require probably having to look back to the Rams game when Saquon had his second 70-yard touchdown run. There's a pro and a con to putting a lot of guys on the line of scrimmage. If you can get past that first level, there's not a lot of pursuit defenders on the back end, and you see Saquon Barkley bust off his second 70-yard touchdown run in that Rams game, right? So there's a pro and a con. There is a risk to trying to put more guys in the box or closer to the line of scrimmage, or blitzing, cover zero blitzes, things like that. And even then, the Eagles have been one of the best teams against running the ball against teams when they play single high coverage and bring a guy into the box. They have things they can do schematically with Jalen Hurts' legs, with motions that they use, with formations that they use to either even up the box count numbers, or if there is going to be an unblocked defender, it's going to be your nickel or it's going to be your corner. And I'll take Saquon Barkley one-on-one against a corner or a nickel corner any day of the week, So they can try and slow it down, but if you put too much resources to stopping Saquon, number one, you're probably not going to stop him anyways if you don't have the guys to do it, and they don't, and then you're opening yourself up to getting attacked by AJ and Devontae.
Um, I watch your obviously I watch your post game. I haven't watched all of your this game. But I did like how you kind of analyzed the how we came out and just kind of made an emphasis on hey, we finna put the ball in the air. There's nothing you can do about it. Like that first pass, I ain't gonna lie, a little shaky to me. That stick nod to Grant Calcaterra, I was just like, did we just put that in between two defenders? Oh, okay, I guess that's how we going today. But could you see a concerted effort to kind of come out and do the same thing again with the pass game, or
Um, I don't, I don't, I don't know. I don't necessarily think so because I think they can run the ball on this team. I think with the Steelers game, number one, they have a good run defense. If you wanted to see what was the weakest part of their defense, it was their passing defense. Their corners were able to be attacked a little bit. Their They rotate their linebackers out, so Landon Roberts would come out on obvious passing downs, and they'd bring in Peyton Wilson. So the Steelers themselves know they have a weakness at linebacker with one of their linebackers in coverage, right? So I think the way to attack the Steelers, the Eagles thought, was through the air. You can attack this Commanders defense on the ground though, and I think that's what they want to do. They want to be a ground and pound offense. They want to be a ball control offense. I think that's probably going to be the emphasis. And then the passing game is going to still play a part, but I don't think we're going to come out and throw it 35 times this game. Now, I said that last week in my best bets preview, and that's not what happened. But I don't think there's a team that wants to be a team that has to throw it a bunch. I think they want to run the ball and then be very efficient when they are passing it. Because you look at Jalen Hurts since the bye week, since they became um, a, a run first team, he's been one of the most efficient quarterbacks in terms of completion percentage, yards per attempt, passer rating, 26 touchdowns to 26 total touchdowns to one interception. So that's the formula, that's the game plan that I think the Eagles want to be. It just will really take a team like the Steelers to break them out of that mold.
I got the nastiest question to ask you, man. It goes around. I need to know your answer, man. Is wins a quarterback stat?
Is wins? I don't think so because quarterbacks are part of the stat, but I don't think they're the full stat. There's three phases of the game: offense, defense, special teams. It's not like basketball where you can play offense and defense. You can only be a part of one side of the ball. We've seen great quarterbacks have bad seasons, and we've seen bad quarterbacks have great seasons. I think it's very much a team game. This is the ultimate team game. So I don't think they're a team stat. I think quarterback, we just tend to blame the guys up top, the guys that get the ball the most. So it's going to be the quarterback, and then you blame the head coaches. Those are the guys that tend to take on the most blame and then get the most praise as well. When really it shouldn't be to that degree. I don't think it is. To a degree, it's a quarterback stat, but I don't think it's black and white, yes or no. It's a quarterback stat or not. I think there's a little gray area, but it's a team game overall.
It's so many conversations, right? And the only reason I ask is like, when you get to talking about the quarterbacks, the five, if you want to put it at 10 or whatever, a lot of the times when you get down to QBR and passer rating and then yards or touchdown ratio, and you get past all that, it always comes back. What's his record versus it? The reason I ask, like in that sense, is because when you talk about receiver, running back, linebacker, cornerback, any position you want to, when you get past the stats, is most likely who's the better player. With quarterbacks, it always comes down to record versus team or record overall in career. And that's why I'm like asking people, like, is it a quarterback stat? Because technically speaking, it's one of the only positions when you look up their stats actually as a quarterback, the record comes up.
Well, would you consider? I mean, I think it definitely has a big part of it, right? It definitely has a big part of it. Good quarterbacks tend to win more games. They tend to figure out how to, take games over when they need to, especially when you get to the end of games and the NFL, most games end in one possession, right? So at some point in time, there's probably going to be a game-winning drive you have to lead. That's probably the more important stat to look at is what's your percentage of game-winning drives that you convert on. And I wouldn't say want to take the entire what's your total game-winning drives that you've had in your career, because if you play for a team that's not behind a lot, well, that's not going to be, that's not going to be comparable, right? Versus a team
Right.
that has maybe a bad defense that's constantly putting its quarterback in position to have to win these game-winning drives. But I think some of the stats that you can look at to really compare quarterbacks: third down, red zone. That's when guys separate themselves, and then probably percentage of game-winning drives do you convert. I think that'd probably be a better stat to look at. But I mean, you could look at like the Steelers had winning records with Kenny Pickett at quarterback, and now you look at Joe Burrow is struggling to get to 500 this season. It's like those guys aren't even in the same universe. So it's just hard. And I think a lot of it comes down to we want to have these easy conversations. Oh, my quarterback's better than your quarterback, and this is why. When these conversations are never black and white, there's a lot of nuance to them. There's a lot of things that go into the stats, but when it comes down to it, if you need a quarterback to win at the end of the game, you're not taking Kenny Pickett over Joe Burrow, even though Kenny Pickett has had better. He played for the Steelers, who have been better in the defense and special teams phase than pretty much most teams in the past 16 or whatever years Tomlin's been the coach there. So I could see both sides to it.
I think ultimately when it comes down to it, it's just a bigger part of the. It's a bigger factor in the equation of quarterback than any other position. It's not in totality a quarterback stat. I think it measures in more for them than anybody else. Like, because we can talk about some of the let's say for instance we talked about linebackers or something like that. We probably wouldn't care about the record. We probably get more down to well, who did he play well against? Who did he play for? The stuff you just said. Like, matter of fact, Brian Urlacher, good linebacker. A couple of times he was on some bad teams, so his stats look a little better. But then when you look at what did the team do as a defensive standpoint, you start seeing, okay, well, Brian was the bright spot. You really don't look at it like that for quarterbacks. It's more like, what did you do with what you had? Did you succeed? What was your record? Like when you start talking about quarterback, I think record plays a part. But statistically, at this point, how many different types of quarterback? I think it's just preference, man. I think you can't really have a conversation about Josh Allen with a Josh Allen fan if you're a Jalen fan. Y'all are going to clash. Y'all are going to have some of the same opinions about your quarterback, but use those opinions to knock the next quarterback.
Right.
I literally heard a Bills fan today. What's up, Philly Talk Podcast? I literally heard a Bills fan today. Now, you know what we've said about the tush push for years, and people were just mad because they couldn't do it. And I'm sitting and I'm listening, and he says it. They said, oh, Josh Allen in the last 2 games got 5 one-yard touchdowns. He's like, oh, you just mad because your quarterback is 6'2", 180 pounds, and he can't do it. And I was like, when I was saying that a year ago, I was getting slaughtered for it.
Yeah.
But now it's okay because, Josh is doing it too.
Yeah, and it's people just want to one-up each other online. So it's like, it's at the end of the day, it's irrelevant, those conversations with people online, because the only thing that matters are the players on the field at that point in time. It's just people trying to one-up each other with talking points and whatnot. But I never understood, like, why is the tush push like a negative for Jalen? It's not like he got tush pushed 99 yards down the field to get to the 1-yard line. Part of a quarterback's job is to get your team to the 1-yard line, So why is that a negative for Jalen's stats? When I was bringing up Jalen has 26 touchdowns, people are saying, oh, he's a tush push merchant. Well, good job getting to the 1-yard line. That's what everyone should want to do. So I don't understand why that's the argument, but
I've never understood it. And you just asked the question that I was hoping you were going to have a little answer behind it, but I don't understand it. It's like, did we tush push the field? Like, did we start on 1 to the 1 and tush push all the way down the field and we didn't do any other play? There was no passing plays or running plays, or there wasn't that play where Jalen went for 35. It was none of those. It was just like, oh, he got to the 1. It's almost like, what they treat it like to me, Nick? It's almost like if you sub the quarterback in, it was like tush push. And then he tush push, and then you're like, yeah, see, that's all he does. And it's like, what? What about the other stuff he did? The whole game, the whole play, the drive. It's like almost like the Justin Fields, how he is now. They're like, oh, he got a first. He leads the NFL in third down conversions on runs or something like that. Having a weird stat. I'm not saying he has that stat, but if he had a stat like, and they're like, well, he only gets it on 3rd and 3 when he runs, so he should have the most conversions. It's like, but Jalen played the whole game.
Right. Yeah, I don't get it. It's just one of those things where we go back and forth with people just to, I don't know, make ourselves feel better or whatnot, make ourselves feel better about our team. I don't get it. But it's part of the thing too, when we're talking about these quarterbacks and things that they're doing is we don't even look at the aspect. I put out a video on Twitter this week talking about how one thing that gets overlooked is Jalen gets his team into the right plays, especially in the run game. A big reason why Saquon's having so much space to run is because Jalen's identifying the front and the defense and what run would be best to attack that front based on the coverage, the front, who are the key players that they want to put in conflict, or who do they want to attack on the defensive line. You know what I'm talking about? How do you have that conversation with people online? It's impossible to have that conversation. It's impossible to truly know and have that nuance to talk about. But there are some quarterbacks, like when I'm sitting here looking at betting on what Breece Hall's rushing attack numbers, And it's like, well, he's not getting the rushing attempts he needs to get because Aaron Rodgers just doesn't want to check into the run play. Where is the value in that? They should be running the ball more, but they can't because Aaron Rodgers, I think his ego's getting in the way and he thinks that he can get the job done himself. Whereas you look at a guy like Tom Brady, he didn't have that ego. He would check into the run. You look at some of their games that they had, like the Deflategate game when everyone was talking, the Colts came out and talked about, oh, their balls weren't inflated to the right PSI. They ran the ball for like 200 yards on the Colts. It wasn't the Tom Brady show. It was Tom Brady getting the team into the right play. Sometimes it's checking the ball down. When they went down and they beat the Falcons on their comeback, he wasn't pushing the ball down the field, especially on the overtime drive. It was he kept throwing it to James White underneath and letting the playmakers work. That is what being a quarterback is sometimes, is just getting the ball to the right place and not having to play hero ball where Josh Allen's throwing it into triple coverage and then he's leading the league, or not leading the league, but has a high turnover rate. Now, he's not doing that this year, but we've seen that from quarterbacks in the past where their ego takes over. Whereas I think Jalen is fine. How many quarterbacks are fine being paid $250 million a year, but are willing to check into runs, and now he is only throwing the ball 21 times a game since the bye week. So I think that has to get factored into it as well. But how do you factor that in? There's no stat to show you that.
Like, I really think I like how he's been evaluating defense. I know a lot of people come out and say he doesn't read defense, he doesn't do. Listen, I listen to a lot of that stuff he be saying, because we be sitting here, me and my son. I had the surround sound on. I'd be like, he said Hattie Gene. I wonder what we finna do. Like, I'm looking because I know it's a call, I know it's a check. What are we checking to? And most of the time, like you said, it's the perfect play. Yeah, it might not go for 100, but it got us to, let's say, second and 6. Might have got us to 3rd and 1. Now we're in this position where you can do kind of what you want. You can go back to the run. You can go to the tush push. You can go to the quick slant to AJ. I really do like what he's doing, man. He's stepped into a spot, and before not really knowing, now that we know that Kelsey was calling protections, he was pointing out, who's the hot man, who's coming, doing all that. To see Jalen kind of first year in it fully. I know he was part of it, but fully in it, I think he's doing a great job at kind of just making sure, we got the right call at the right time. He has made mistakes, which every quarterback has. You called the play, it wasn't there. You roll to the sideline, you throw it away, you get to the next play. But you kind of read my mind, because I was going to ask you, how did you feel Jalen did in that Steelers game? Kind of calling, because it felt like that was the game where he kind of seemed like he was doing a lot more checking than I've heard previously. It just seems like he was just making sure everything was good. And it probably, like you said, cover 1. He comes out, send the motion. Oh, they back in cover 1 again? I think that had to be as surprising when Dan Orlowski said they ran like something like 19 or 20 plays in cover 1, and Jalen Hurts completed like 17 passes. I'm like, it had to be surprising for Jalen to come out and he said it was the highest rate that any team had done it since 2022. So it had to be surprising for Jalen to come out. We in a run play. He's like, hey, they didn't cover 1 again, bro. Like, didn't AJ just hey, AJ, Smitty, we finna run another one then. Like,
yeah, and I don't know why the Steelers thought that was going to be the way to go. The Commanders Dan Quinn typically, he's a guy that wants to play a ton of cover 1. But I don't know if he's going to do that this week against the Eagles. I think they're going to play more cover 3, more cover 2 to match up. But, I don't know why the Steelers came out and thought that'd be the way to go, especially if you look at the analytics. They all show that the best way, what the Eagles and Jalen Hurts do the best is attack cover 1. So I'm sure he was licking his chops whenever he saw that out there as well. But, Drew had a comment that Jalen's pre-snap analysis is pretty good. Pre-snap reading of the defense is pretty good. And I 100% agree. I think it's more so as post-snap diagnosis. If things aren't what he thought it was going to be post-snap, I think that's when you see him start to bail the pocket right away, hit the top of his drop, and then start to scramble. You saw that on the play where he had the fumble, where you could see he checked into a play because it looks like the Steelers had a really good disguise. Everything looks like man coverage. The receivers, the corners on the receivers, their alignment, their eyes, how they lined up, everything looked like cover one. Then they rotated into cover two. I think Jalen checked into a play that there's crossing routes, so I think he was trying to check to a man beater, and then they rotated to cover two, and then he didn't sit there and let the play develop, bailed too early when I think it was Jahan Dotson as the number one receiver was going to come open late, and he ended up bailing, But I think that's probably a bigger issue for Jalen. A couple of his issues, just not hanging in the pocket long enough, getting the ball out in a timely manner, being prepared to throw. There's times where I think his footwork could be a little bit more precise, and then some post-snap diagnosis stuff. But pre-snap, he gets the team into the right plays a lot, And if you're going to come out like the Steelers did with obvious tells for most downs of playing cover one, Jalen's going to tear you up.
I think that's kind of what happened in the Carolina game a little bit. I think he's seen it one way pre-snap, hikes the ball, gets in the bottom of his drop. He's coming back up, and he's like, well, this ain't what I seen when I came out. He's like holding it. Now he's fleshed out.
Yeah.
That's what the defensive coordinator is paid to do. But score, I'm gonna wait for the score prediction. Let me get your crazy take for this week, man. Crazy take on the list.
Crazy take. I don't know if I have a crazy take. I'm usually not the crazy take guy. I usually try and be,
I'll go first.
level-headed. Okay, all right, I'll let you go.
I believe Jahan Dotson has his most receptions this season and a touchdown.
Oh, Jahan Dotson revenge game, huh?
I ain't gonna say revenge. He's probably gonna have like 4 catches for like 32 yards and a touchdown. But I think he could be somewhere around.
We got to look back to the first Commanders game. I think they wanted to get him involved. I think Nick Sirianni is definitely he's a player's coach. He knows like if there's a way to motivate the guys and a guy's going to be extra fired up in a situation, I think he knows and can read those situations well. I think they wanted to get Jahan Dotson the ball. They came out and they targeted him a couple times early, one on a bubble route, but they also threw him a slant on, I think it was third down. And on the opposite side it was a bang play, but on the opposite side was AJ was running a hitch, and it's like, shouldn't AJ be running the slant, and then Jahan Dotson's the guy running the hitch against where you're going to go to that route is if it's zone coverage and the zone takes you that way, right? So I don't know if they're going to force it to Jahan Dotson, but it would be nice if they had a couple plays designed for him to get back at his team, But
do you see that ever happening this year?
What's up?
Do you see that happening this year at any point where Jahan is just more involved than what we've seen?
The thing is, that's just not who Jalen Hurts is as a quarterback, where he's going to sit here and go through, gets his third, fourth read on a consistent basis. He's a guy that's most likely going to be first 2 reads, and then he's probably going to look to extend or scramble. So that's one of the bigger issues. And then also they do get the ball too when they do throw. As much as we've talked about, AJ hasn't gotten the ball that much this year. It really is coming down to the fact that they're not throwing the ball that much. He still has the highest target share on the team. Devontae's second. They still get the ball to their main guys. I don't know if he's ever going to be featured. I probably not. We've never seen a wide receiver 3 get featured in this offense. The wide receiver 3 is really Dallas Goedert when he's healthy. So I don't think it's ever going to get to a point where he's this season where he's he might.
I ain't gonna say feature. I ain't saying feature. I don't think he ever get that either. I agree with you. I'm just saying where he's just more involved, like where he's not just running cardio. I mean, he's ran. I don't even know the last time he got a reception.
Oh, I don't know. I guess I don't. I'm not tracking the Jahan receptions that much. I mean, it's usually like bubble screens or something like that. But hopefully, it's just gonna have to be a thing where Jalen progresses as a passer, and hopefully he continues his progression from last week when he was getting the ball to like Kenny Gainwell in the flat. I hope we see that continue when I just don't think he gets to his checkdowns enough. I don't want to become Sam Bradford and check it down all the time, but it'd be nice to see him trust his running backs at times to pick up those yards on the ground instead of always relying on his legs to pick up some of those first downs. But Drew had a couple questions I wanted to get to. Number one, he said it seemed like the Steelers are baiting Jalen with stunts last game, baiting him to run by using stunts. And yes, I think that teams do that with Jalen. If you look back to the first Commanders game, There was a play where Jalen bailed the pocket right away on a third down. It was a play where Devontae Smith was running a drag route. They ran a stunt, they presented an open gap, and then they had a defensive end looping around. If I was a defensive coordinator, that'd be one of the things I would be trying to do against Jalen Hurts, knowing that if he sees an open hole, he is a guy that his instincts are to run a little bit, you know. So I would be trying to
Is
to to
that
bait him
Eric?
with some of that stuff.
Is that Eric?
Yeah, I think so. But but I would definitely be using stunts to try and bait him. But you saw that in the Steelers game. He took a sack on a situation like that at the end of the first half. And then he comes out in both games. He came out in the second half, and he was much better in those situations. He really learned from it in the Commanders game and hit Saquon on a check down for 40 yards. And then one more question that he said, what do you think is the likelihood Kellen Moore stays? I don't know what teams think of Kellen Moore as a head coach. There's one thing to be a really good coordinator. There's a different thing to be a head coach. You know, it's at that point in time, it's much less about the X's and O's and the football aspect of it, and it's much more like a CEO trying to lead an organization, trying to direct everyone together and keep everyone on the same page, motivating everyone, dealing with the issues, putting fires out. Would Kellen Moore be good enough to handle that situation we had last week with the BG and AJ and Jalen and all that stuff? Those things play a part into it. Managing egos, everything that goes into the back end. If you listen to coaches talk when they give their clinic talks, a lot of times they talk about how they wish they could go back to being coordinators. Or Chip Kelly decided to stop being a head coach for UCLA. He said a key factor in that was that I think it was their quarterbacks coach for UCLA, accepted a job somewhere else. He had to come in and be the quarterbacks coach for their bowl game. And he said it reminded him how much he loved coaching football. And you don't get to coach football as much when you are the head coach. You're taking on much more of a CEO role. And I don't know if Kellen Moore has that in him. I've never talked to the guy. I don't know if that's him. So that will have to be on teams to decide. But I could very well see it that Kellen Moore is probably going to be back this year, or back next
I
year.
would I would love to see a second year in his offense, to be honest. I would like to see how Jalen progresses. I think a lot of the plays that he has been missing, I could be wrong. I could truly be wrong. But I feel like some of his comfortability with the playbook, not necessarily trusting that it'll come open. And then once he's seen it, is now I'm not comfortable that it's open. You know, because some of those plays, like you said, they're rhythm throws. If you're not 1, 2, 3, it's almost off time. And sometimes it just feels like Jalen's looking. He's like, I don't really like it. We see it from that was open. You know, if you put some mustard on it, that's pretty much a completion. And it's like, I want to see if he gets comfortable like he did with Shane Steichen and he's making those plays. Because Jalen 2021 wasn't Jalen 2022.
Right. And I think not just Jalen too. I think the rest of the team, the entire team will be better. You know, the second year under the same system that includes protections. No, and it's not just protections, but all the different things that can happen that a defense does when they slant a defensive lineman this way. You got to get your eyes back and looking the opposite way, or are they blitzing? And how does that tie in with what you're doing behind you? Right? Is this a play action play? Is it just a three-step drop back? Do I need to get the defensive line? Make sure I'm getting the defensive line's hands down. You know, so I'm being more aggressive, jump setting guys. It's just knowing the more you get to be in a system, the more the little things you'll become better at. And the key point is looking at Jared Goff, his third year in a system with under Ben Johnson, his numbers skyrocketed, and it's not like they added a whole lot new to the offense. Jameson Williams came over and really started getting, rounding into shape as a pro. But other than that, it really is just Jared Goff is playing much more decisively and confidently in the same system he's been playing in for 3 straight years. You know, so I think that's going to be with anything. The longer you get to work in a system, the better you're going to be at it. The more mastery you're going to have over it, and then you can also know, hey, when I do want to go off script, this is how these plays are most likely going to work out when I go off script. Just all the little things that go into it, I think they'll be better at with a second year in the same system.
Hey, I never thought about what you just said there at the end. That's crazy because now I'm thinking like about certain quarterbacks being in that second year. When you get out on the move, you do understand the play a little bit more, so you know where receivers are at. You kind of know when they're going to get their eyes back. And I see, you know who I see do it a lot? Josh Allen. He'll float, and you'll think he's like trying to like beam towards the sideline. He's kind of just floating. He's kind of looking because he knows that guy that's over there that's running his route is about to come over, and he just like I get what
Right.
you're saying. I never thought about it like that though.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Everything gets better when you have more time in a system. I mean, just anything you do in life, the more you get to practice it, the more you'll be better at it.
I think Moo's got a question for us. He said, "Is there anyone in the upcoming draft you've seen that you like?"
So I haven't started draft prep yet. I'm very much focused on churning out the content for during the season, and since I'm doing everything, pretty much editing everything, wearing multiple different hats with what I'm doing, I haven't had too much time to look into draft prospects yet. But I know there's supposed to be some good prospects on defense. I'm going to be looking at tight ends to add to this group. It should be a strong tight end group. I really like Colson Loveland out of Michigan. The guy is a field stretcher. He is a real receiver playing tight end. Obviously, the guy from Penn State, Warren from Penn State, has been a beast as well. There's going to be a good number of tight ends that come out in this class that should line up with some of our needs. But we got to remember, we're not drafting for needs. We got to draft long term and keep that in mind. But I think long term tight end and what we need long term from the tight end position will match up very well with this draft class.
I'll take that tight end out of Texas, man, or the one out of Penn State, or I'll take one of them guys, man. No, I haven't. I'm with you. I haven't even opened up my book, start writing down names yet. It's just I'm letting it flow right now. I'm enjoying this season. It's going so fast. I know I'm gonna be a little late. Uh, hopefully I don't start, really doing draft comps until about February 15th or something around there, because
Yeah,
I'm coming back from the parade, and I'm ready to lock in. But
yeah.
uh, nah, I've heard, it's a lot of tight ends, very deep in the running back, defensive line. So I'm pretty sure, Howie's gonna put on another decent class and put some guys around this. Last question before we get out of here. There's a few guys that's up for contract. You had to pick three. Who you taking?
Sorry, say that. I was reading questions from some guys. What was that question again?
Oh, we can get back to the questions. We can finish those off
No,
before we
no,
leave. But
we could do your question. Sorry.
um, God, with the guys that we have, there's a few guys that are up for contract. You had to pick
Yeah.
three. Who you take?
Oh man, that's a hard question. Number one, Zach Bond.
I
That's
knew
my
it.
boy. We gotta bring him back. Uh, just because I mean, after that is the drop off from him to whoever is after him is gonna be huge. I don't know if Jeremiah Trotter is going to be able to come in and bring this level of play that Zach Bond is bringing. So I think Zach Bond's a guy I would definitely want to bring back. Defense has definitely performed the way it's performed in large part too to what he's able to bring. Now there is a whole collective group effort with that, but also think about Zach Bond is playing at the level he's playing at, and he's only really been playing linebacker at the NFL level for one full season. How much better is he going to get in the second year under the same system? You know what I'm saying? So hopefully we can bring him back. Fan favorite as well. I don't buy guys' jerseys a lot just because I've been burned too many times from buying a Wentz jersey or a Namdi Asamoah jersey. So I kind of retired from buying jerseys unless it's like Jason Kelsey or Lane Johnson, and nobody wears lineman jerseys. But I'll buy a Zach Bond jersey if we re-sign him. After that, though, it's kind of hard because Milton Williams is probably going to get paid too much money to bring back. I love to bring him back, but you know what? Moro Ojimo is playing really well behind him as well, and I think he can step up into a bigger role when given the chance as well. Mekhi Becton, when you look at Tyler Steen is he's a starting level offensive guard in the NFL, so I'd be fine bringing him back as well. It makes it hard. Oh man, it's a good question. It's one that I've contemplated many times because like when we get into the offseason talk, we're going to have to talk about, I think we should bring these guys back. And last year in my offseason guide, I predicted a lot of the moves that they were going to make, letting one of Reddick or Sweat go, bringing in Bryce Huff, some of the guys that they went after in free agency. But I think it's kind of up in the air when you look at this team. But I guess I would say out of Milton Williams and Becton. If I had to bring one of those guys back, it'd definitely be. I think I'd bring Becton back because he can like he has an elite level of just mauling guys on the offensive line. You know what I'm saying? Tyler Steen's good. He doesn't bring that level though, you know. So
Right.
I don't know. I don't know. And then you also
You
got
got two. You got two.
who else do they got? Isaiah Rogers and then
Kenny
probably Sweat.
Gainwell, Isaiah Sweat.
I don't think Gainwell's back. I think Gainwell's Shipley was Gainwell's replacement. They're not going to pay two running backs
Right.
second contracts, you know. So I think Gainwell or Shipley's the replacement back. There's also going to be a really deep running back draft class if they want to go that route.
Give me Ali.
What's up?
Ali Gordon.
Oh
I know,
yeah,
I know he's
so
gonna
many
go way too far for us, but
you never know. I mean, there's going to be so many guys that they might push each other down the draft board.
I was listening to somebody today with some good draft analysis, and they believe it's 20 plus draftable running backs from round 1 to round 7.
Yeah. So I mean, that's probably you probably the thing is when you see stacked classes, you want to dip in there at some point in time because usually you find value. Some of those guys get pushed down further down the draft board than what they would have been in normal years. So I think there probably will be some value in that running back draft class. But I got to put a pin in this one, man. I think I got to come back. I still am thinking. I don't know who I'd. It's probably going to be Becton and Bond. I would guess. After that, I hope they bring Isaiah Rogers back, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're looking somewhere else for a corner. I really don't know.
Appreciate it. You know what? You answering that question makes me not answer because you took my 3. I'm Bond. Listen, that was my 3. I'm Bond Isaiah because but Isaiah is a 50-50 for me, depending on what Slade decides. You know, if they decide, you know, Slade's like, hey, look, let me run one more, then I'm 50-50 on Isaiah. But Bond is first.
Yeah, well, here's the thing with Slay. He essentially has a poison pill in his contract. He essentially has a poison pill in his contract in terms of an option bonus, and they've put that in there. Like that's not an option bonus. How he's going to pay. So I think this is it's going to be Slay's last year and Bradbury. They both had very similar structures in their contracts, so I don't think either of those guys are back. Someone said Sweat. The thing with bringing Sweat back, they can actually lower their cap space next year if they extend Sweat. Now it depends on the deal, but the way how he's able to structure contracts, his dead cap hit would be bigger than if they were to re-sign him and bring him back. And I really wouldn't be surprised if they bring him back as well on some sort of maybe 3-year deal with an out after 2 years, something, you know, how he's special. We're going to need depth at the position. Even if they do draft a rookie, they don't tend to want to rely on rookies, as most good teams shouldn't try and rely on rookies. It should be drafting for the future. So I could definitely see them bringing Sweat back. He's been good in run defense. He's been a really good, I would say, second pass rusher. You still would like to find, you know, your Micah Parsons and your TJ Watts if you can. But they're doing a really good job of developing the talent that they have that I think they can bring Sweat back.
Well, hey, it's pretty good people here. 59 people in here. We appreciate y'all for tapping in with us, man. Hey, man, we've been enjoying doing this with y'all on Friday. I gotta go take my kids to this downtown Disney thing. I guess it's like a Christmas Halloween area. You know, they're gonna have a bunch of lights and houses and characters and all this stuff. But look, if you have not yet, go in the description, man. His Nick's Twitter, his YouTube, all in there, linked. Tap in. He did do the evaluation for this week, man, and gave us some things to really look forward to playing the Commanders. I have not watched the whole thing. I did get through you talking about the game for this week. I'm gonna finish watching that on the drive because it's about 45 minutes. I'll probably finish that. Anything for the people before we get out of here, Nick?
You know, just appreciate the season. It's already week 16, and you know, before you know it, we're already starting to talk about draft and free agents, and we're gonna be sitting here. Next thing you know, it's gonna be May, and we're just begging for a new game film, and I'm replaying the same stuff over and over again. So appreciate it while we got it. You know, if you're in your fantasy championships, good luck. But you know, it's birds till we die. So hopefully we can keep this party rolling.
Hey man, hopefully we come back with y'all soon with some more, man. I see you, Drew. My fault, Drew.
My fault, Drew. You know what I mean? We're gonna be back though. We're gonna be back this week too, man. Maybe we start something out, man, you know, cause my guy doing all, you know what I'm saying? He doing 16, 17 jobs over there. He watching video, he breaking down film, he analyzing stats. I mean, listen, this is his break to come sit out with the fans, man, talk to y'all, man, have a good time. So y'all keep tapping in with us, man. Share with a friend, so they can share it with a friend. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's a you know, chain reaction. You get all the people here, come hang out with us, man. Whenever we back, man, y'all just stay tapped in, man. Love, peace, hair grease. I hope the hookums don't hook nothing, but
Oh, come on, bro. What's your team's not even in it.
Hold on, who y'all play? Who y'all play the first game?
Clemson.
Who y'all play? Oh yeah. Hookum. Okay, let's go. Let's go.
Right.
I'll take
who
that.
do you guys play though?
Pop-Tart Bowl. We at the crib. We playing with the lint in our pocket.
Yeah.
We playing with lint in our pocket. Nah, you could beat Clemson. You could beat Clemson.
Well, we're gonna
listen.
Arizona State, and then Oregon can't match up with the Texas.
Before I went to Florida State, I was a USC fan, bro. I was a Reggie Bush diehard. I will never love your team. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Well, you get to witness greatness at least once, so it's all right.
Yeah, he, you know, should have been more, but
performance in a bowl game. So
but shout out to all the college kids, man, that's gonna get a chance this weekend to perform, man. If y'all ain't got much to do, tap into some of this college football, man. You talking about draft analysis? It's nothing better than live gameplay, man. You looking at a player, tap in. You know, it's 12 teams playing. You get a good sight on what's going on. It's only, I think, 8 this weekend. But follow that. I mean, it's something to do. Because guess what? Nick just told you in May, you're going to be sitting here looking at the TV, watching ESPN saying, and I can't wait for football to come back.
Right.
So, hey, man, we're going to get up out of here, man. Appreciate y'all. Like, comment, subscribe, man. We'll see y'all again next time. Peace.
Yo, Philly fam, I'm back.